like stone, forest, wood, hill, rivera, and flores. Chinese names are drawn from these same kinds of sources. The most common surname in China, and probably in the world, is Li, as in Bruce Lee and Jet Li. Literally, this character means plum tree. The top part of the character is the easily recognized word for tree, mu. It shows a tree with extended branches and roots sinking down into the earth. It looks like the character for big, da, except that it shows a tree trunk coming up from the ground in the center. The character under the tree is known to most people as the word for child, zi, but it can also be used to mean egg or seed, and in this case it could have any of these three meanings, since plums look like purple eggs, contain seeds, and are the children of the plum tree. So a plum tree in Chinese is the tree that drops a lot of little children, little fruits. In fact, the word for a plum itself, li, zi, means the plum tree's child, the child of the tree that makes lots of little children. The word for plum tree is similar to the character for apricot tree, xing, which shows a tree above with an open mouth patiently waiting below for fruit to drop into it. The second most common name in China is Wang, said with a rising second tone. It means king, and it shows someone who is perched between heaven and earth, above the common people but below the immortals. Perhaps someone who may intercede with the gods on behalf of the people, or more likely someone who sees himself as rising above the common folk to become godlike. The third most common last name is Zhang, said with a high first tone. Remember that ZH in pinyin sounds like a soft J. This character means stretch, and it shows a bow on the left-hand side, as in bow and arrow, and the very common character for grow or length on the right-hand side. The bow character is meant to look like a bow, and the character for length or grow actually shows a table holding up what is probably a dead body, a body that is stretched out the long way on the table. In order to lengthen a bow, you have to stretch it, so this is the word for stretch. In simplified form, the bow side is the same, but the character for length is shortened. The fourth most common name, Liu, said with a rising second tone, means kill. It looks like a difficult mishmash of strokes, but it's actually simple in concept. The top part of the left-hand side shows the character for stop. It originally showed a pair of doors with a bar across them, a bolt, stopping someone from coming through the gate. Below that is the character for metal, and to the right-hand side is the shortened character for knife. Altogether, these characters mean to stop someone with a metal knife, to kill. The simplified form drops all the complicated strokes on the left-hand side and softens the meaning of the word by using instead the character for writing or culture. However, this character looks a great deal like the character for strike, which shows a hand holding a stick, or in this case a knife. The fifth most common name in China, and the most common name in southern China, is Chan. In the West, it's often written and pronounced Chan. It was the name of one of the ancient capital cities of China, but the word itself means stale, old, or antiquated. The character looks as if it means beyond the city hills to the east, because the left-hand side shows the defensive hills, the ramparts, built around a city, and the character on the right seems to be the character Dong, the word for east, which shows the sun coming up behind a tree. But the character on the right is actually a combination of the character for tree and the character for extend or spirit, and the whole character may refer to the spirit of the woods beyond the city. The simplified form abbreviates the right-hand side of the character. The sixth most common name is Yang, often changed to the name Young in the West. It means a willow tree. It shows the character for tree on the left-hand side and a character on the right that shows rays of sun hanging down like pennants. If there is any tree in the world that looks as if it has been festooned with hanging pennants, it's certainly the willow. The simplified form abbreviates the character for sun, but leaves in place the branches hanging like pennants. The seventh most common name is the word for the color yellow, huang. It shows a character at the top and bottom that means bright, a character that comes from the characters for 20, 2 tens, and fires. 20 fires make something bright. In the middle is the character that means field. Together, these characters suggest the color of the bright fields in autumn, the color yellow. Remember that in Chinese culture, yellow is a very high status color. It's the color of the emperor. It's the equivalent of purple in the West. The simplified version of the character drops a couple of strokes but looks almost the same. The one name whose meaning seems to have been lost over time is Zhao, although the components of the character are actually quite easy to figure out. The left-hand side features the very common character for walk. It shows a person stepping forward with their foot. And the right-hand side means resemble. It comes from the words for small and flesh and means a smaller body, a smaller version of someone, a mini-me. However, what these characters together mean, walk, resemble, is no longer known. The simplified version abbreviates the right-hand side to just an X. The ninth most common name, Zhou, is simple enough to be written the same way in both traditional and simplified form. It's the name of one of the dynasties of ancient China, but it's also the word for circumference. It comes from the characters for useful and mouth, or opening. You can do something useful with a round opening after measuring its circumference. And the 10th most common name is Wu, written this way in traditional form and this way in simplified form. It's the name of one of the warring kingdoms in ancient China, but it's also the word for brag, boast, or shout. It shows a person leaning back a bit and yelling with a wide open mouth. Just as names in the West all originally had meanings as words, Chinese names also have meanings beyond just the name.